All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So before we get into today's episode, I just want to let you know that this week we are doing a big promotion on my signature program, the Online Summit Program. Now, specifically what we're looking for is for hikers who want to get fit, strong, and resilient so they can conquer every adventure. So if that sounds like you and you want to find out a little bit more to see if and how one of our programs may be right for you and your hiking and your situation, what I'd like you to do is go to summitstrength.com.au/apply. Now, from there, you can book a quick call with our team to get a bit of an overview, see if and how one of these programs may be able to help you with you, and you can explore things from there. So if you want to check it out, go to summitstrength.com.au/apply, and you can book a call with our team directly from there. Now, with all that being said, let's get into today's episode. All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are talking all about levels of fitness for hikers. And essentially, I'm going to be talking you through a few different sort of levels of, let's call it like levels of aspiration that a lot of hikers have when it comes for their training for hiking. Because almost every single hiker out there can benefit from training for hiking. And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in that. But when it comes down to it, not all hikers are training for the same thing. Some hikers may simply have been booked themselves on a trip. Maybe it's a day hike, maybe it's a multi-day hike, maybe it's a through hike. And they're like, look, I simply just want to be able to get through this. I want to be able to get to the end and not have to bail out halfway. I don't care how it goes. I don't care how it feels, but that's what I'm aiming for. Now, other hikers on the other side of things may be training to turn their hikes into like a really enjoyable experience. They're like, look, I don't want this to be a slog. I don't want this to me get to the end of the day feeling absolutely knackered. I want this to be an absolutely positive experience. So obviously there's a little bit of a difference there. And when it does come down to your training for your hiking, it can be pretty powerful to identify what exactly you're training for. So to get out of this whole idea of saying, hey, I'm just trying to improve my fitness and trying to get fit, but what exactly are you training for? Are you happy with the bare minimum? Or are you wanting more? And if so, if you are wanting more than where you're at right now, are you doing what you need to do to get there? And that's the important thing. So essentially to help out here, today's episode, I really want to talk you through these 6 different levels of hiking, which, I've often seen hikers aiming for. And it's obviously not comprehensive. There's lots of different things that go into it. But this is kind of 6 simple levels that a lot of people aim for that we see. And as you listen to this, I want you to really, really try to keep in mind and consider. Number 1 is what level of hiking or training for hiking are you ultimately aiming for? Where do you want to get to with your hiking? Whether it's a day hiking, whether you're doing an overnighter, multi-dayer, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. What level of hiking, training for hiking, are you aiming for? And then what level are you currently at right now? So keep those 2 things in mind. Where are you aiming for and where you're at right now? Now, before I get into it, I will just say again, these levels, they apply to any hiker out there, whether you're a day hiker, whether you're a multi-day hiker, whether you're a long-distance through hiker, whatever it may be. Just whatever you are, think in the context of these things for you. Okay? So level number 1, getting into it, is the most basic level of fitness, is having the confidence to say yes to an adventure. So at this level of fitness, some people are simply training to be confident to say yes to certain adventures. So there may be a friend or family member who's invited you to go hiking with them. Maybe it's like you're at the very, very beginning stages and it's a day hike. And they're like, hey, Rowan, I'm going hiking this weekend. Do you want to come? But you just haven't felt not confident in yourself to accept. And for myself, I've been that at stage at certain times in my life. Even though I'm like, the training for hiking guy, there's been certain stages of my life where I'm like, I'm so out of shape. My friends ask me to go do an overnighter. I could easily have done that last year, but right now I'm in a terrible situation. And I don't want to do it. I don't feel confident in myself. So I said no. For other people, it may be a multi-dayer. Maybe someone says, hey, I've been dreaming of going to Kilimanjaro this year. Do you want to come with me? But you're just not confident in yourself to accept. You're worried that you're going to struggle. You're worried that you hold your friends, your family members back, maybe the group back. You're worried that you might embarrass yourself. All of these feelings I've felt when I've said no to certain adventures. It sucks. It's not much fun. So in this situation, when you're looking at your training, you may simply just be training to be confident in yourself to say yes to these opportunities. If someone asks you to go out and hike, if someone asks you to do an adventure, you'll be confident in yourself just to say yes. So that's the most basic element of training for hiking. And obviously you can get more basic than that when we're talking about injuries, when we're talking about medical conditions, this and that, but we're not going into that type of thing today. This is our most basic level of fitness that I'm talking about. So that's number one. Number two is confident that you can complete these hikes. So you think they go hand in hand, but doesn't always go the same. And at this level, you may be training, so you've got a hike that you want to do. You can be confident that you'll complete it from end to end successfully. Because some people say yes to adventures and they're like, you know what? Worst comes to worst, I'll just stop halfway, or I'll take this extra point, or I'll only do 2 days out of 4 days, or whatever it may be, which is fair enough if that's you. But this next level of fitness is essentially a hiker who's at that spot, but they're like, you know what? I want to be able to complete this. I want to be able to have said yes, or I'm going to say yes. I want to be confident that I'm going to get end to end. Now, it may not be pretty. You'll be like, you know what, I might not be in a good spot. It's probably going to be tough and require a bit of mental strength and a bit of mental grit. But you want your training to ensure that no matter what, you are going to finish. You don't have to take that exit point. You don't have to bail out halfway. You don't have to call someone up to pick you up. You don't have to stay in the tea house or stay in the tent for 1 day or whatever it may be. You're confident that you can complete the hikes. So that's the second level of fitness. Now, third level of fitness is confident that you'll be ready for an emergency situation. And this is something a lot of people don't think about, but very, very, very important. Because when out hiking, countless things can go wrong. Equipment malfunctions, weather events, failures in navigation, you can get sick, you can have injuries, you can have mishaps, whatever. And if you're only at the level of fitness where you can just scrape yourself through a hike, in the best case scenario, when everything's going smoothly, blue skies, sunny days, everyone's happy, no issues, it's going to be very, very unlikely, if that's your absolute limit there, that you'll be able to handle yourself in an emergency. That if you realize, look, there's a terrible rainstorm coming in or a snowstorm or whatever it may be, we need to finish this an hour earlier, that you have to increase your speed, you're probably not going to be in a good spot. Or if your hiking partner, if your friend, if they go over on their ankle and they're like, do you know what, can you carry a few bits and pieces from my pack? If you're at your limit, that's probably not going to be doable. Or if you take a wrong turn and have to hike a few extra kilometers, I think we've all been there and that sucks. But if you're at your absolute limit, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm only be able to get to the end of this day and all of a sudden you've got to do an extra 2, 3, 4 kilometers. That's trouble. And at this level, you essentially want to ensure that you have that extra level of emergency fitness. The hike's going to be tough either way, but worst case scenario, something goes wrong, you're going to be ready for it. You're going to be able to deal with it. Now, most hikers don't really think about this until they're on the other end, until they're like, oh my gosh, I just pulled myself through by the skin of my teeth there. And most hikers don't think about it, but it is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. And I personally would say this is the bare minimum of level of fitness any hiker should be aiming for. So not just aiming to be at that position where you can scrape yourself through and get through in the end, but have a little extra in the tank in case something goes wrong. So that's level number 3. Now, level number 4 is fitness to enjoy your adventure. So we all hike for different reasons. Some people hike for mental health, some people hike for the feeling of challenge, some people hike for escape, whatever it may be. But in amongst all of that, aside from the people who are really trying to push fastest known times and the real, masochists or whatever it may be, most of us, no matter what our underlying causes are, we actually do want to enjoy our time on the trail. We don't want it to be an ordeal. We don't want to be absolutely terrible. We don't want to be constantly at that limit of our capabilities where we're just huffing and puffing. We're absolutely knackered. We don't want to look at every single hill and incline and be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. And you're just absolutely heaving your breath. Your legs are burning. You don't want to look at every steep descent and feel like, look, I need to take an ibuprofen before I do this descent because I know I'm going to feel in so much pain. We want to be in a position where we can look up from the trail, take in the surroundings and finish the day feeling like it was great fun. And this is the next level of fitness, training so you're not just at that limit. You're not just got that emergency fitness, but you're actually in this spot where you're a little bit fitter than you need to be. So you can actually enjoy the time out on the trail, whether it's a day hike, an overnight, or a multi-day, or a through hike, whatever it may be. But be in that position where you can enjoy yourself. And for me, that's really important. Now, level number 5 is you could even say this is like 4.5. It's a little upgrade from the last one. But it's essentially fitness to be in the moment. So this is a little bit harder to get to, admittedly, but if you have experienced this, you will know just how amazing this can be. At this level, the demands of the trail ahead of you, they don't really bother you. Inclines, descents, flat, rock hopping, heat, cold, whatever it may be, it's all good. Yeah, some will be harder than others, but you're confident. It's all good. You're confident in your body and your abilities. You're happy. You can just cruise through the days hiking without too much of a major strain. And you can truly take in the beauty around you. You can actually look around and spot the birds, spot the wildlife, spot the cool flowers and all of that. You can actually hear the rustle of the trees. You can hear animals scurrying away. You can hear bird sounds because you're not just huffing and puffing the whole way. You can actually smell flowers, the trees, the pine, wherever you are. For me personally, when I'm in this position, I just think about life. I have so many epiphanies about things I want to do. I can get so creative in my head when I'm in this position, and it's amazing. And at the end of the day, you're essentially finishing. You're like, wow, that was really quick. That didn't feel like any time at all because you were in the moment. You were cruising. And at the end of the day, when you get into your bed, whether it's in a tent or whether it's at home, you go to sleep feeling relaxed, recharged, and inspired. It's a really, really cool feeling to be in when you're just in that moment for the hiking. And that's the next level of fitness because it does require quite a bit of fitness there. It does require you to be more fit than you need to be for these trails because you need that fitness so you're never going to be put off by the trail and you can stay in that moment and enjoy yourself. But it's such a cool position to be in. And then the final level is something that not a lot of hikers aim for, not a lot of hikers even think about, but it is definitely worth mentioning. Is level number 6 is be an inspiration. In the sense of like, have you ever gone out on a hike and you've just seen another hiker who just absolutely blew you away? You were just so impressed with their abilities, who seemed just moved effortlessly on the trail, who seemed unstoppable. Now, I always hear from my hikers these stories of these hikers. They're out on the trail and they meet this hiker who's 10, 15, 20 years older than them, but they're just cruising along the trail. They're just unstoppable. They're bouncing around and they come back and they tell us about it. They're like, wow, that's the person I want to be in 20 years' time. And they talk about it with their friends, with their family members, this and that. At this level of fitness, that person is you. It's not someone you're just talking about, but this is you. You are the inspiration. You are the hiker that others will talk about with a note of awe in their voice. You're the hiker who gets called the mountain goat or the Energizer bunny or whatever it may be. You are the hiker whose friends and families will literally tell stories about you. When the topic of hiking comes up, they'll be in the office. Someone will say, hey, I'm going to do a hike. They're like, oh, well, my mother did this on the weekend. She always does this. Or my friend, you know what? They did this trip and they like yada, yada, yada. You're the hiker that gets talked about. You are an inspiration to all those around you. People ask you to come out on the trail with them because you inspire them. Now, not many hikers will aspire to this level. Fair enough. And even less will get there if it's something you genuinely want to be. But if you can, wow, it's a special, special feeling. And for myself, I would rarely say I have hit this level of inspiration. Maybe back in early 20s when I used to bounce along the trails and feel, I was probably, a lot lighter on my feet back then. But I know the feeling. It's awesome. It's great. And it is a level you can aspire to. So, as you can see from that, from what I've laid out, there are so many different levels of fitness that a hiker can aim for. And I really do find if you can shift your focus from simply just training to get fit for hiking, just saying, oh, I'm trying to get fit, but you actually know exactly what you're aiming towards. I'm training so I can enjoy it. I'm training so I can be in that moment. I'm training so I can be an inspiration, whatever it is for you. I think identifying that, it can be really, really, really powerful. And at Summit Strength, our online personal training for hiking business, we've helped dozens and dozens and dozens of hikers at every single one of those levels. Whether they're day hikers, overnighter hikers, multi-day hikers, through hikers, even mountaineers. We've helped people very, 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 very many of those different levels, trying to increase them. From beginner hikers who just want to be confident to accept their first full day hike. We've worked with lots of people there, to lifelong hikers who are like, you know what? I want to be the inspiration to my children, to my friends, to my family members for the next 20 years of my retirement. I want them to look at me and see me doing these things. And because of that, they're inspired to take their fitness seriously, their health seriously. We've had a lot of hikers who aim towards that, and every hiker in between. So if you're a hiker and you do want to reach a certain level of fitness for the trail, what I would say from here is answer those questions that I asked you before. Where are you at right now? Where do you want to be? And then also a third question is what you're doing right now going to get you where you want to be? Because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, and you haven't actually been progressing to this level you want to be at, then maybe you need a little bit extra help. And if you were looking for extra help, as I said at the start of this episode, this week we are doing a big promotion around our online personal training service, our signature program, the Online Summit Program. Now, specifically, we are looking for hikers who want to get strong, fit, and resilient so they can conquer every adventure. So you can be that inspiration. You can be in that moment. You can enjoy yourself. You can be ready for emergencies and all of that stuff. Now, if you are looking for some extra help with this and you were interested in learning a little bit more, I would love to hear from you. Now, essentially, all you need to do is if you go to summitstrength.com.au/apply. Now, on that page, you'll be able to book in a really, really short phone call with our team where we'll briefly be able to just dive into your situation and just see if this is something we may be able to help you with. And if it is, then we can dive in things a little bit deeper. We can get into the nitty-gritty. We can explore and really just see if and how one of our programs may be right for you. So if you want to find out a little bit more, go to summitstrength.com.au/apply, book a call with our team. We can have a chat and we can take it from there. So thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you got a bit out of it. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Have a good one. Bye.